All right. Thank you everyone for being here. We'll just go ahead and start the webinar. So my name is Krista Myers. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at Lumina. Today I'm going to be giving a talk titled Heat Pumps 101, Heat and Cool Your Home While Saving Energy and Reducing Emissions. So I work for Lumina. It's a software company in Campbell, and we were funded by Central Coast Community Energy 3CE through the Electrification Education Grant Program last summer. And so this is, we're really excited to present to you what we've been up to since we got that grant. We've developed a really awesome heat pump evaluation tool that we're going to give you all access to at the end of the webinar. That you can actually use to evaluate your own homes and see how much money you can save over the lifetime of a heat pump and how to impact your utility bills. We also are going to be talking just about heat pump basics, and we'll share with you our website that has a lot of good resources that you can circle back to about heat pumps. And thanks to the city of Santa Cruz and Tiffany Wise West, the Climate Action Program, for supporting this project and helping promote it. And we have some polling too that the city has contributed to. So we will, and we do have a few panelists. We have a few people from Lumina that are the model experts that can answer some questions. And then we're expecting also another panelist, Jared. He's a heat pump installer and contractor. And so he's supposed to be logging in shortly, and he'll give us a contractor's perspective on all this. Okay. So the outline of the talk, we'll do a little poll at the beginning, and we have a few riddled throughout. Then I'm going to go into the basics of building electrification, just to get everyone on the same page about why it is we want to electrify things. Then we'll talk about heat pumps, really get into how they, what they are, how they work. And I'm going to be going over some of the most common options for different heat pump types. It'll probably be more information about heat pumps than you've heard. Maybe not, I don't know, we'll see, but it'll hopefully be pretty enlightening. Then we'll talk about the rebates. So there's some really awesome rebates to the state that are available, and we'll tell you how to get those. Then we'll be demoing the heat pump evaluation tool, that online calculator that we've developed. Then Jared will give us some insights from a heat pump installer, talking about sort of what to expect and rough costs, etc. So electrification, it's a pretty hot topic right now. It broadly just refers to the effort of changing buildings over from fossil fuel running appliances to electric ones. So the main ones that we're going to be talking today are about heat pumps, heating and cooling appliances. But you also have your stoves, anything that's powered by natural gas in your home. And building electrification is also, the broad push to basically move to renewable energies too, and to power homes. So people are installing solar panels or installing infrastructure to charge their EVs. And so really moving towards a fully electric home and society. So that's the main driver. And there's a lot of benefits to building electrification. It's better for your health. It improves indoor air quality. If you do not have natural gas stoves emit a lot of toxic gases, and then also things tend to leak. So a fully electric house does not have any of those problems, and it's better for your health. It's better for the planet. It reduces greenhouse gas emissions. We all know that the IPCC report that just came out, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they clearly stated we need to, stop using fossil fuels as fast as possible and get off that. So building electrification is a way to combat climate change and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. It's better for people. It creates jobs. The green economy, installing all of these building electrification efforts is a lot of work, and it's going to create a lot of good paying jobs and help communities out and hopefully be a boost to economies. And it's also better for your wallet. A lot of these new appliances that are replacing these really old fossil fuel or even old electric appliances, they're a lot more efficient these days. So it'll help out your wallet as well as reduce emissions. Okay, another Zoom poll. This is just one question. What do you think, in a typical home in California, which one do you think is responsible for the most amount of emissions? So we have heating, domestic hot water, or gas stove and cooking. So pick what you think and we will see the results shortly. All right, we have about half. All right, cool. Looks like everyone has voted for the most part. Okay, there we go. Okay, so looks like everyone thinks that 61% think that heating is the highest emission source. Then we have domestic hot water, 22%, and then a lot of people also think that cooking. So we have kind of a spread here. This is a chart showing the 3CE. So this is the Central Coast Community Energy Service Area, which roughly runs from Santa Cruz to San Luis Obispo. This is the total amount of emissions from buildings for residential and commercial buildings. And you can see that actually the number one source of emissions, 29% of all emissions from buildings are just from residential water heating. Another 21% are from residential space heating. Only 4% are from residential cooking, even though, that might be the thing that you see the most with respect to natural gas, your stove in your home, but actually water heating and space heating are the big hitters. So 50% of all of our building emissions on the Central Coast are from heating our homes and hot water. Okay, so enter electric heat pumps. This is the hopefully one of the solution that's going to help tackle that 50% of emissions, or at least really bring it down. So heat pumps are awesome, high efficiency electric heaters and coolers that heat and cool your home. And I want to point out that Project Drawdown, which I know a lot of the climate people in this group, I highly recommend checking it out if you want to look at these climate solutions that they have. But high efficiency heat pumps actually made the list for Drawdown for top climate solutions. So there's a lot of potential here to reduce. So, okay, what is a heat pump? A heat pump is an energy efficient alternative to furnaces and air conditioners, and it can be used to heat or cool your home. So that's why it's really great. It's a 2-in-1. Typically you have your AC unit. Sometimes in California you don't have AC, but you usually have an AC unit that runs off electricity, and then you have a furnace or some other option, and they're two separate things. A heat pump it can heat and cool your home. This is a diagram of a ductless mini split heat pump, which is one of the types of heat pumps. We'll go into that in a little bit, but it's a nice diagram here showing that we have an outdoor unit. It's a condensing unit. That's what it's called. And then we have a line of refrigerants, a refrigerant line, which I see someone in the chat has already talked about. We'll speak to that at the end. But we do have a refrigerant line that runs between the outdoor unit and the indoor unit. The indoor unit is that's called a fan coil, a wall-mounted fan coil, but these can also be mounted on the floor. It doesn't necessarily need to be above a door. But anyway, so this outdoor unit is connected to the indoor unit with this refrigerant line, and then the hot air or cool air comes out of this indoor unit. And so how it works is, I'm going to not go into too much detail, but we will be following up with an email with links, and then also we'll send out our website that's going to have links to all the things we talked about. So I'll link to a 10-minute video about the details of how heat pump works for the more technical people. But basically it works by transferring heat from one place to another by pumping a refrigerant, very similar to how a refrigerator works. So your refrigerator, it's taking all the heat inside the refrigerator, and the refrigerant is gathering it, collecting that heat and then expelling it outside of the refrigerator. So it's cooling it down by removing the heat. So it's moving heat from one place to another. And so heat pumps do the same thing. And it can cool or heat your home depending on which way the refrigerant flows. So if you want to cool your home, very similar to how a refrigerator works, it's taking the air from inside and taking the heat and then expelling it outside. Alternatively, if you want to heat your home, you're taking heat from the outside and moving it to the inside. So it's not generating heat, it's moving heat. And that's why it's so efficient. So instead of like an electric resistance heater, one that you plug in, that's generating heat, this is just moving heat, which makes it super efficient. So they're the most efficient form of residential heating available. And they use as little as 25 to 50% of the energy compared to traditional HVAC units. So they're really great in that sense that you can really cut back on energy, and hopefully that means also costs. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears and talk about what heat pump is right for you. And I'm going to say that this really depends on what you currently have. So we're going to focus on single family retrofits right now. And Mitsu is going to put this link in the chat. You don't have to look at it right now, but just know that everything I'm about to say is compiled on this website, and you don't have to memorize it because it's kind of a lot. Okay, so your current heating or cooling system. So as I'm going through this, kind of try and put yourself into one of these bins. So the blue bin, central ducted air system with forced air. We'll talk about each one of these. So if you have a central ducted system with forced air, you have these ducts that connect to vents. You might have vents on your ceiling, your wall, your floor. You probably have a furnace in like a basement or a utility closet that's actually sending the hot air around your house. If you have an AC unit, it's also linked into this central duct system. And so the air comes out of vents. So if that's you, you're on the blue team. If you do not have ducts and vents, but instead you have heaters like in your room, distributed heaters or AC wall units, like space heaters, baseboard heaters, radiators, etc., maybe a stove or a fireplace, you're in the yellow team of distributed heaters or AC units. If you have neither one of those, and this is a little bit rarer, but you might have a hydronic system, and that means you have a boiler that's actually heating up water that's being, that boiler is usually in a basement or utility closet as well. And then that sends hot water through pipes to radiators or baseboard heaters in your home. So if you have a hydronic system, you're on this orange team. So just remember what color you are, and we'll circle back to that. So the common types of heat pumps, these are colored by what system you have. So whether or not you have one of these systems, we've kind of colored the heat pumps by what's the most common replacement. So we have a central air-to-air heat pump. This is you can have a couple different styles or flavors. You can have a single, dual, or variable speed. You don't have to worry about it too much. Mostly, talk to your contractor, but variable speed is the most common. It's the most efficient. And these air source heat pumps have two systems, one outdoor unit called a condenser, which looks very similar to an AC unit, like this, and then an indoor air handler that goes in a basement or something like that. And that is where it's, and those are connected with refrigerant lines again. So we're still passing that refrigerant to move heat between the indoor and the outdoor. And these air handlers are what is actually heating or cooling the air that's distributing to your home through ducts and vents. So that's if you have the ducted system. You might want to go with the ducted system as well. It's sort of makes sense and is more economical. Another option, if you have a ducted system, you can go with a ducted mini split. So there's two types of mini splits. We'll go into the other option, but this ducted mini split, it has an outdoor unit that is a condenser. It's a little bit smaller than the other ones usually, and it has an interior like horizontal ducted like an air handler. And so that sits inside of a ceiling and attic. It's a little bit smaller than the air handler on the central systems that we just talked about. And it takes air coming in and then heats or cools it and distributes that air through your house through ducts and vents as well. And usually the ducting is a little bit shorter with these ducted mini splits. And so it's actually a lot more efficient because you lose a lot of energy and heat through your vents, your ducts. So, insulation is really important, that kind of stuff. So if you have, that's really good for preventing loss. And they're very quiet and they have a small footprint. So they're a little bit smaller, which is nice. Okay, now we're moving into the orange team, which is ductless mini split. So this is if you don't have an existing, you don't have vents, you don't have ducts, you can have a ductless mini split. And this is one that you've probably seen. It's kind of hard to tell if you've seen a central heat pump, central air-to-air heat pump, but a ductless mini split, you've probably seen these little wall mounts. This is the one that we also showed in that diagram a few slides ago. So this one has the exterior unit like this, and then the interior unit connected by that one refrigerant line. And this one's very efficient. Because they don't require ducts, right? And I said that a lot of your losses are through ducts. So these are super efficient, that they don't have much losses. and it's really great for small homes. And you can have multiple zones is what they call them, by having multiple of these like head units, what these fan coils. So you can have one in each room if you want, but you must be warned that that gets more expensive. So, it's really about your budget. If you're on a tighter budget, you might want to stick with one or two zones, or one more powerful ductless mini split. But it's kind of nice because if you do have multiple zones, you can control the temperatures separately. So you don't have to heat your house to the same temperature. And these are also really great if you have like an AUD or something like that, like a smaller unit and accessory dwelling unit. You can install a ductless mini split. And they can be more affordable than central units sometimes, but it really depends on your ductwork and also the number of zones. Okay, this is the cheapest option. Package terminal heat pump. This is, it's best for heating and cooling a single room or a small space. So these are, they sit on the floor, and then you have something that goes in the window to transfer heat from the inside and outside. So it's not the most like visually pleasing, but it definitely gets the job done as a heater and a cooler. And it's best for those on a tight budget. You can get one of these for $1,000. You don't need to, have a contractor come out and install them. But they definitely a good option if you're, on a tight budget or have a really small space, or little studio or something like that. Just requires a window to access outdoor air. Okay. Lastly, kind of maybe not the most common, but if you have a hydronic system, so if you had those water pipes that are going to radiators and stuff, you can replace your boiler with an air to water heat pump. And so they consist of an exterior condensing unit, just like the other ones, but instead it connects to an indoor heat exchanger, which heats a closed water loop. So you're not replacing all of your piping or anything like that. Like those would stay the same, but the boiler would change to a heat pump. And you can also have in-floor radiant heat for this if you like a toasty floor. Okay, so we just went through the current heating and cooling systems, and now I'm showing you in a different way. This is the same information we just said, but kind of in a different way. This is showing the current systems and then the heat pump options for space heating and cooling. And I want to point out here that there's multiple options. If you have if you're in the yellow group of having distributed heaters, you can go a couple different ways, right? You can do the ductless, you can do packaged. But if money is not an issue necessarily, you can, do other options too. It's just installing ductwork is more expensive. So, and if you have a central system, you can always go to a ductless system. Let's say your vents and your ductwork is just shot. Let's say you have an old home, insulation's bad, maybe it's infested with, rat poop or something, whatever. If you can't use your existing duct network, you can always go to a ductless system. So this is a nice graphic kind of showing you the most typical replacements, but also other options. And definitely, talk to your contractor about this to figure out what's best for you. Okay, so that was all HVAC. So like heating and cooling for your air. Now we're going to talk about hot water heat pumps, and I just have one slide on this because they're a lot simpler. There's not as many kind of options. There are options for the actual heater, but it doesn't matter as much about your existing infrastructure. So hot water heat pumps deliver hot water at high efficiencies, and they run off electricity instead of natural gas or propane. And if you remember back, hot water actually is the #1 source of emissions along the Central Coast, residential hot water. So this is definitely an important solution, or part of the solution. And heat pump hot water heaters are usually 2 to 4 times more efficient than traditional electric resistance hot water heaters. So they're super efficient. Even if you have an electric one, you can, if it's getting old, you might want to replace it with your next one could be a hot water heat pump. And I will note, so we don't go into detail about this, but just so that you all are aware that this exists, there are units that are combined space heating and cooling and hot water. So it's kind of like a 3-in-1. And so, one heat pump to do it all. So you could have one exterior unit and it does hot water and your space heating and cooling. But it's a little more expensive, definitely a little more complicated. So, but if that's like really of interest to you, definitely bring it up to your contractor. And it's good to know if you're going to like replace everything anyways, maybe you'd be interested in that, or if you have a new building. Okay, so for a list of heat pumps that are out there, there's this really, instead of me trying to compile it, there's a really awesome resource that already exists from Redwood Energy. They're based up in Arcata. And it's this pocket guide to all electric retrofits of single family homes. We have this linked, so that the link that Mitsu sent out about, you know, what heat pump is right for your home. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, we have this linked, and I already actually pulled out all the pages that are relevant to heat pumps. So you could scroll through. It's really awesome because it shows all the specifications as well as the price. So you can get some ideas of how much these things would actually cost and ranges. So check it out for sure. It's a really good resource. Okay, so that was kind of the fast, you know, discussion about the different overview of the different types of heat pumps. Now we're going to go into rebates. So Tech Clean California is a program that's live right now. It launched, I think, this past winter. And it's rebates for space heating and cooling and hot water heat pumps. This is for retrofits only, so it's not for new construction, but if you are looking to retrofit single family home, multi-family home, you can definitely apply to this. So it's about $120 million worth of funding through the state of California to advance California's goal of reaching carbon neutrality by 2045. So this is the website here. It's through the Switches On, which is also another really awesome resource about building electrification. And so they have this information. I'm just going to go through what's available through Tech, and this is all on their website that we'll also send out to everyone here. So good news, the entire Central Coast is eligible for rebates, which is awesome. So the map on the left is for HVAC. HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So that's, you know, your heat pumps to do space heating and cooling. So, and then the one on the right is heat pumps for water heating. So if it's blue, that means that's the baseline tier. If it's this sort of highlighter yellow, it's this enhanced region. So I live in Santa Cruz. So I'm in an enhanced region. The Central Coast is in an enhanced region for the HVAC. It's in the baseline for the hot water heat pump. So we'll go into what that means. So to replace HVAC systems in an enhanced region, which is what the Central Coast is for the most part, depending on the efficiency level. So this is a chart showing the equipment type and then the efficiency level and then how much incentive you can get. So if you get the any, you know, a packaged split system, mini split, etc., you can get up to $4,800 if you get a system that's high enough to reach this SEER rating. This is like an efficiency for most AC units also use SEER rating. So the highest efficiency, you can get up to $4,800. You can also get rebates for quality installation. So this is for, you know, if you also do all of these installation things. So if you know, do the duct sealing, etc., you can get $600 a pop for that. So that adds up to $6,600. We also then have hot water heat pump incentives. So this is for, you can earn up between $3,100 and $1,000 if you replace your hot water heat pumps. So if you go from gas, propane to hot water heat pump, you can do $3,100. If you go from electrical resistance, it's $1,000. So this is really great to know. You know, you can combine the $6,600 and then you can still get another $3,100 for your hot water heat pump. Okay, so actually getting the rebate, how do you actually get this rebate? So they're distributed to contractors who install heat pumps, not homeowners. So you or I can't just go and, you know, email Tech and then get the rebate ourselves. You actually have to partner with a heat pump installer who's signed up through Tech. You can find a contractor who is signed up through Tech through the Switches On. We'll send out that link to all the participants. And so you can type in your zip code, see who is a heat pump installer, and then go through them, and then they would actually get the rebate, and then you can get that savings through them. And savings are applied at the start of the project, so you don't have to wait. It's not like you have to, wait a couple years or get paid in small increments. You just get the money kind of right up front. Okay, so now we're going to go over the heat pump evaluation tool. And now that my double monitors are gone, I'm sorry, I'm a little lost without my double monitors, to be honest. So we'll see how this goes. All right. So we have, this is what we've been up to for the past few months, working hard on our software developers have been creating this tool for you all to hopefully use and benefit from. So this is our heat pump evaluation tool. This is a tool that is trying to calculates how installing a heat pump will impact your utility bills and also reduce emissions. So we have these, we'll send out this link. It's just a URL. You don't have to download anything or, download some special software. It's just in a browser. We'll send you this link. So you start at this Get Started tab. And there's some text that, you can read through, but hopefully it's pretty intuitive. So first you type in or you select information about your home. So pick which type of home you have. I live in a townhouse. You pick your zip code. This is about your insulation or air tightness. So how well insulated is your home? I'm going to say average, or actually it's pretty drafty here. So I'm going to say poor. Then you can change your square footage. That's about right for me. And this is just conditioned floor space, meaning just that has heating and cooling. Then you put in the number of people that live at the home. This part, you're inputting what type of electric rates and gas rates you have. So we have what's your electricity rate. So if you're not sure what your electricity rate is, you can just click this button up here. How do I find it? That pops up a PG&E bill, and it shows you where to find out where your gas rate and electricity rate is. So in this case, you can see it here. It says ETOUC. So you go and you find ETOUC and choice. If you're a prime member with 3CE, that means that you pay more for fully renewables. So you find your electricity rate. It also has information on where you can find your gas rate. So here you see it says G1. So that's our residential service gas G1. And I guess before you answer that, though, the question's prompting you, does your building use natural gas or propane for space heating or domestic hot water? So my home, we have natural gas. If you're on propane or electricity, you can choose that. So once you've filled out this first tab, then you can go over to the current heating and cooling tab and fill out some information about your current HVAC system. So how do you currently heat your home? We use natural gas, we have a furnace. Then you select your heating system to compare against. So this kind of circles back to the talk about the different, the blue, yellow, and orange options. So I have central heating with gas furnace and air ducts. So, if you have central, if you have those vents coming out, remember, if you have a boiler or individual heaters, those are also options there. Then you say the efficiency level of the heating system. So I'm going to say typical. If you don't know what it is, you can just choose typical. And then select the temperature of the thermostat that you set it to in the winter. So this is how cold you can tolerate. We keep ours about 65. So then, do you currently have AC? So do you currently cool your home? If you don't, click no. I'll kind of circle back to what that might mean for heat pump installs in a second. So yes, and then you select your system. So if you have a central system, you probably have central AC as well. But you can also, choose your air or room AC or an evaporative swamp cooler. And then once again, pick your efficiency level. Then hot water. So we have a natural gas hot water heater. And these are the two options of if you have a gas storage water heater or a tankless option. So if you have a storage water heater that, has sort of a larger tank, this is like the on-demand style. So I have a gas storage hot water heater, and I know that my efficiency is really low because I actually looked it up. But if you have a really old system, it might be low. If it's, relatively new within the last, 10 years-ish typical, or high if it's relatively new. Okay, so once you've filled out your first 2 tabs, that's all about your own personal inputs. Now you're ready to move on to the heat pump options. So this is actually looking at what heat pumps you can evaluate and how it'll impact your bills. So first you can choose which applications you want to consider. So do you want heating? Do you want cooling? So if you want to look at all of them, you click all of them. So you want heating, cooling, and hot water. But you can always unclick them, play around, and see how it affects your bill. So the cool thing about this model is that it kind of automatically spits out a recommended option for you. So just like that one diagram that showed you with the blue, the orange, and the yellow, and what heat pump options you have, this model follows that same logic. So if you have a central ducted system for your heating and cooling, it's going to recommend either a central ducted system or a ducted mini split. You can still choose a ductless mini split, and you can kind of play around with that on this tool. But so it's recommending this system for me, so I'm going to stick with that for now. And then since I checked this box, it's also recommending to switch over to a hot water heat pump. And then it also shows you your incentives that you qualify for. So these are incentives based off your zip code. It already figures out what incentives you are eligible for, and also based on if you unclick domestic hot water, that rebate's going to go away. Okay, so this is kind of the good stuff here, which is showing you what your bill savings is. So this is how your bills are going to be impacted by getting a heat pump. So your first year bill savings, it looks like I'm not going to save too much, but I do. So it tells you your first year bill savings, and this really depends on your home, how big your home is, what your current system is. You can play around with that. And if you live in a single family home, et cetera. So that has a really big impact on that. Then you have a change in natural gas usage. So this tells you how much natural gas you're no longer going to be using because you are not using it for heating and cooling, or heating your air, and then heating your water too. Your electricity usage, it will go up. That makes sense. You can't get something from nothing. So you do have to, you're going to be, you're switching to electric. So it makes sense that it's going to go up. Then it shows your lifetime CO2 savings. So this shows how much CO2 you are preventing from being emitted because you're no longer burning natural gas. So if you get a heat pump and a hot water heater, both for HVAC and hot water, in this house, you're saving 71 tons of CO2, which is the equivalent of planting 2,600 trees. So that's pretty huge. And it really highlights the power of switching over from natural gas to electric appliances in, if everyone does this, that it's actually a really huge amount of CO2 saved. So the way to interpret this, this plot, this is your monthly bill savings estimate. So it's showing you if it's positive, that means that that's a savings. If it's negative, that means that you are spending money on that. So in this case, it looks like in the winter, I might have a slight net increase, but in the summer, I have a slight savings. And then it shows you so this is over the whole year, and you can play around. You can go back and change your inputs in your heating and cooling, or you can change other things around. And then, so that's your monthly bill savings. Then we can go down to this plot, the cumulative bill savings. So this is showing you the x-axis is the years of the heat pump lifetime. So we're estimating that your heat pump will probably last about 15 years. And the y-axis here, the vertical one, that's the cumulative bill savings. So in your first year, you save a little bit. Second year, it's adding up. And so by the 15th year, the end of your heat pump, it says your lifetime bill savings is about $4,000. So that's pretty huge. And then this also calculates in your heat pump incentives. So you have your $7,000 in your incentives that you get right up front. Then you save, roughly $3,800 over the course of the lifetime. So that means that, you're saving about 11 grand with the incentives and the bill savings. So So that's, you know, that's really good information to know as a homeowner, right? Because a lot of the times heat pumps, the reason why you might not install them is they're kind of expensive up front, right? So it's good to know, it's good to estimate how much you think you're going to be getting back from it and when it'll kind of pay itself off, right? So now you can, when your contractor comes to you and says, oh, you know, it'll be, you know, $12,000 or $8,000, whatever they say, you know, okay, a ballpark, this is probably how much I'm going to save over the lifetime. And you can feel a little bit better about, you know, when you upgrade and spend that money. Okay, so for those that are a little more advanced or interested in tweaking the knobs on this model, if you don't, I mean, you can always come back and just play around with your insulation, you know, how does that impact things or whatnot, or, you know, your electricity rates or et cetera. You can also, sorry, one of the things you can actually play around with the heat pump type too. So let's say you want to look at, okay, I want to compare it to a ducted mini split system. So, hey, it looks like I can, you know, my first year I'm saving more, but let's look at that, you know, total break-even cost. It looks like they're pretty similar. You know, this one, the ducted mini split might save me a little bit more. So it's definitely good, you know, interesting to play around and evaluate the different systems. Okay, so for the advanced options, this is mostly for if you're like, you know, Krista, that was like a lot of numbers and graphs and I don't want to look at anything else, that's totally fine. You can stop right here and, you know, have your nice little estimate. If you're really, you know, itching to play around with the efficiency levels and stuff, we've actually let you, you can kind of look under the hood here and play around with this advanced option. This is also really great for contractors. So if you, let's say you don't want to, you know, use this tool necessarily, or you want your, you can always bring it to your contractor and say, hey, you know, I have this tool and they can input the exact specifications of your system. So you can customize your current system. So you can customize the heating efficiency, cooling efficiency, and hot water. With the SEER ratings, you can look all this up, you know, based on your model number. You can customize the heat pump efficiency level. So let's say you like pick out a unit that you're really excited about, you know what the brand is, you know, it's, and you know the efficiency levels, you can go in here and put in the numbers and it'll go, you can go back to your heat pump options tab or look at these plots here and see how that changes things, right? You can also get real crazy and customize the energy price escalation rates. So you can change how much electricity and gas prices we're going to increase in the future. And then this is useful too, that it has this button that if your contractor gives you a quote, you know, you can go in and, you know, you can decide, okay, if they quoted me $12,000 or whatnot, when that's going to break even. So that's kind of cool. You can, you know, estimate or figure out what, you know, your cost savings is. And that's just kind of looking at this number here. So that's the advanced options tab. And then also for those that want to do a deeper dive, I just am pointing this out that there's an about tab that has a simple explanation of kind of what goes in the model and then a modeler's kind of explanation. So that is the demo of the tool. So we're going to give you all access to this and we're really excited to, you know, get feedback too. So if you have strong thoughts about this and or ways to improve it, we'll send out a survey too. And you can, it's going to be a Google survey and we want to, you know, improve it. The contract is ending this month, but we are trying to get more funding to keep expanding this tool so that right now it's just including the central coast of California, but we're hoping to expand it beyond that outside of the 3C service area. So, okay, that was the heat pump evaluation tool. And I just want to tell you guys a little bit about what we're also doing for outreach. So we are partnering with Cabrillo College, the local community college in Santa Cruz and Aptos, the Department of Construction and Energy Management, to create teaching modules for students. So we're going to give free access to this evaluation tool to all the students and early career technicians so that they can go off into the world of, you know, HVAC installation and have this, you know, hopefully a handy tool in their pocket to help them talk to customers about, you know, what to expect from utility bills after switching their systems over. I think that's a really big question in everyone's mind. Okay, so we're really excited to, yeah, partner with them. And if you know of any HVAC, you know, training programs that might be interested, or people that want to get involved, definitely reach out, you know, shoot me an email. I would love to talk to them, and we're really excited about collaborating with Cabrillo. Okay, so I'm not sure if our panelist Jared is on yet. So let's see here. So yeah, Jared was actually, I just called him right before this. He actually just finished up at an energy efficiency conference and was on the road. And so he was trying to connect his mobile hotspot. He's in Tennessee right now. So hopefully he'll be able to hop on shortly. But so we can just go into the I guess Q&A, and also we have another poll here. So I'll put that up. Thanks everyone for bearing with me with my power outage. I can't believe the internet's still on. I guess it's just I tried to flip the breaker and it kept triggering. Yes, Jared Genovese. Yep, Jenny, if you know him, he's the person that yeah. Okay, so I'll do one poll really quick, our last poll. So here we are. How likely are you to replace your HVAC or a hot water heater with an electric heat pump with what you know now? So you can be honest here. It's totally, you know, we're just kind of trying to gather where people are at, and how ready you might be. Okay, cool. So we have about half of folks. Oh, cool. So Jenny is vouching for Jared that I guess he installed solar panels and heat pumps at her duplex. That's so cool. Small world. Yes, financing option as a renter. Yeah. So I mean, I'm a renter, and we can get into Q&A too. I'll show this poll and then we'll jump into Q&A. Okay. So I'll show the results. So it looks like, you know, you got about half are on the market for replacement and needing more info. So hopefully this is a helpful kind of starting point that you can, you know, use the website and everything and this calculator. Looks like we have a couple people. Hey, there we go. Okay. Crisis averted, right at the end of the webinar. Okay, so a couple people on the fence, a couple people don't think they're ready anytime soon. Yeah, that's really good information. Thank you all for the polling. Okay, so we can do a little Q&A. So I will see who's saying stuff in the chat, and so we have a couple people in the chat, and we have some questions in the Q&A. Okay, so I'll start with the Q&A. How does the heat pump move heat from the outside into your home when it's freezing outside? Yeah, so that's a really good question. And it has to do with the fact that the refrigerants actually have a really low boiling point. So the boiling point is like minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And so the way a heat pump works is it's actually, there's an expansion valve and everything. It basically has to do with, you know, utilizing that refrigerant's qualities, the boiling point, to still be able to extract heat from the outside. And it does work to, you know, below freezing. There's heat pumps that are spec'd out that you can have, you know, vacation home in the mountains as a heat pump, or, you know, not a vacation home if you live in the mountains. Here on the Central Coast, though, with milder climates, you don't have to go with those cold weather heat pumps, but it depends on the refrigerant type. Okay, Elisa, if my home already is fully electric with baseboard heaters and electric hot water, are we still eligible for rebate to install a heat pump? Yes, you are. It's a little bit less than if you're converting from gas, but there are heat pump rebates. So I'll just go back here that if sorry, I'm still on my laptop because I already unplugged my computer from my monitor. So if we look here, you can see that, especially for the hot water heat pump, if you're going from electrical resistance, you still get $1,000. For this, I think that this is regardless of if you are, you know, what you're switching from. I think you just have to be switching to a heat pump from either electric or natural gas. If someone from tech, I know we invited some folks from tech. If you're on the call, definitely write in the chat if I misspoke there. Okay. So thanks, Elisa. Okay, then in the chats we have, here we go. What kind of refrigerant? Yeah, so refrigerants are definitely a source of, they are a greenhouse gas, and refrigerants are very potent greenhouse gases at that, way more potent than CO2 or methane by, a order of magnitude or more. But it basically, it only is bad if it leaks, right? And so if you have a quality insulation, it's not leaking, it's not escaping. Basically what I've heard is that, the risk of refrigerants leaking is so much smaller than the risk of continuing business as usual and emitting, using natural gas and propane. So it is a bad source of greenhouse gases if it leaks, which, yeah, okay. If you move the coils on your refrigerant to outdoors, would you obtain 200 to 300% efficiency like a heat pump? James, if you want to answer that, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know. That's from Lonnie.
Yeah. I would say in theory, if you had a fan unit outside to dump the heat, it's possible.
Okay. Hey, so maybe outdoor kitchens? I don't know. That could be a solution. Very creative, Lonnie. Anything to say about ground source heat pumps? So yeah, we were just talking about air to air, air source heat pumps, which means that the source and the sink of heat is the air outside. But if you have a ground source heat pump, that means that you're actually getting or expelling heat into the ground, like through a borehole or something. And there's also water source heat pumps. So that's if you have like a pond nearby or a wastewater pond or something like that. So there are different places for the heat to go. And these are all air source heat pumps. Ground and water source heat pumps are higher efficiency. Like they cost less to run, but they're way more expensive to install. So it depends on your budget, what you're going for there. Hopefully that was, and we do have a little bit of information on our website about that, but we're focusing on air source heat pumps because they're the most common. How does the efficiency of hot water units compared to the efficiency of gas hot water heaters? James, do you want to take that one? What's in the model of what you're comparing it to?
Yeah, so I can say that hot water heaters are rated at, they can be above 300% efficient. And if you compare that to a typical gas-fired hot water heater, which is normally about 62, 63% efficient, there can be as much as a 5 times difference in efficiency. I will say that the ratings that are on heat pumps are often found to be lower in actual operation. So that's just one thing to keep your eye open for, is that once you install these things in a home, they don't always operate exactly at their rated efficiency. But the same is true for gas units too.
Someone is asking how expensive, ballpark. That's a good question for the actual units themselves. I would take a look at that Redwood energy guide, but there are a couple $1,000s for the units themselves. The labor is usually more depending on what you're trying to do. So if you're like installing a new duct work and everything, that's tens of thousands of dollars. If you're using your existing duct work, I actually just talked to Jared about this right before. He said it's a couple $1,000s, but probably a good estimate is it would be surprising if you were spending significantly less than $10,000. Like I'd say, I don't know, $5,000 to $20,000, 5 being like, a really kind of simple system that's using a lot of existing, your existing system, your existing vents and stuff like that. And it depends on what, how efficient of a system. If you're going for really high efficiency systems, they're going to be more expensive. I will I'll just share my screen and show you exactly, since we have time, since Jared's not on, I'm just going to share my screen really quick. So this website that Mitsu put in the link in the chat, what type of heat pump is right for your home. If you scroll down, so this is all that information. There was that, graph that we showed you, or that chart. All these have information about each type, so you can go and peruse this. But also, if you keep scrolling, here's that electric appliances list from Redwood Energy. So you can download the full guide here, or you can just take a look. So it looks like, not installation, this is just costs. So for some central systems, it's $2,000, $3,000-ish. For a ductless mini split, these are cheaper. But then you still have to install it, right? The labor. So here are some options running off of 240 volts. So it depends on some of these things called Mr. Cool is the brand. This brand right here, Mr. Cool. They actually have like a system that you can install yourself that you don't need a refrigerant license, where the lines come pre-charged, and that's pretty cool. If you're like a handy person that wants to save that money. So, check out this website. Here's some of those portable ones. So talking about renters and stuff like that, if you want to electrify on a budget, these are $700. So, you can still do that. And, you're, as a renter, you can push your landlord to do this, but, it's kind of a hard sell to get them to upgrade, if your system's still working fine. But, that does kind of, and then, they also have, hot water heat pumps too. So, take a look at this. Also, I will tell, if you're like really jazzed about electric retrofits of single family homes, there's this really awesome video by the City of Sunnyvale Sustainability Speaker Series. And the Redwood Energy, his name's Sean Armstrong. He gives a fantastic talk about, if you're into building electrification, like I watched it twice. That's how it was just really good. A lot of really good info. And he kind of summarizes this. So that's ballpark. Let's see what else we got. Need a different oh, okay. I see that was for, yeah, Emily's saying she's a renter. Okay. Jenny's interested in heat pumps that use CO2 as a refrigerant. Yeah, that's definitely an option. And I think some of those units that are the hot water and the like air heating, that those actually use CO2, which is awesome because, as Nancy had pointed out, refrigerants are a huge source of, they're a really potent greenhouse gas. So if you can use CO2, definitely that's a great option. I don't know if James has anything James was a HVAC installer at one point in an earlier life. So if you have anything to say about that, James.
I would just say that what's great about the CO2 refrigerants is they're typically much more efficient units. You can get higher efficiencies with those.
Great. Okay, Brian, yeah, giving a nice summary here. So Brian's saying it's the same principle as how an air conditioner can cool your home when it's hot outside. Heat when cold out, cold when hot out. It just runs in reverse. Yep. So it works very similar to an AC unit, but it's AC and heating in one. And it depends on the flow of the refrigerant. Okay, Emily, who is actually on tech, she's saying that's right. Prior to heating, a heating source for HVAC just needs to not be a heat pump. So I think it was Elisa who said you had electric. Yep, you can still get those HVAC incentives, the full probably 6,600. So go through tech, yep, for tech incentives. I'm not seeing the link. Can you please send? Okay. And Mitsu is on the phone with Jared. I will resend this link to this page. Okay, let's see here. This is the page that has, so check that out. Also, where we're gonna post all this information, if you want to, circle back to it, we're gonna send it out as an email, but also our webpage that has the webinar information. So same website we just sent you, but if you scroll to the top and just click on the webinar tab, we'll have the links to all those, so you don't need to go digging through to find the tech, contractor lookup and stuff like that. We'll let you, we'll try and make it easy for you all. Okay, we have more Q&As. Did you say that you have access to this app? Yes, I did say that. So we are going to send that out. to you all, and let's see. So yes, shortly, or if James wants to put that in the chat right now. Okay, so and we're not quite sure how it will respond to everyone going on right now, but go for it. And if it's a little slow, just circle back, but hopefully it'll be fine. Okay, so could you talk about heat pumps that use CO2 as refrigerant? Yep, already answered that one. Did you answer what if you don't need AC? Okay, yes, thank you for asking that, Dan. So if you don't need AC, or let's say you don't have AC, right? And then you install a heat pump. Now you have AC, right? Even if you don't need it, you have it. And so you might start using it, right? And if you start using it, then your electricity bills are going to go up, right? So that's something to consider too, or to be aware of. And the model will calculate that. So if you check something like, I don't have AC, but then you do want AC, your bills might go up actually, because now you have AC. But if you don't have it, you don't want it, heat pumps don't come with a just one or another. You're going to end up with both, whether you like it or not, but you don't have to turn it on, right? If your house is fine without AC, but that's definitely something to keep in mind, that your energy use could go up. Okay. Do you have a list of preferred installers who could provide quotes for electric heat pumps and duct replacement in Santa Cruz? So Jared is definitely someone that can, I don't know if I'd say preferred installer, but he, he's a local installer. Jenny says he's great. He already installed a heat pump at her. So I can put Jared's email in the chat. As for the sort of contractor lookup, there is since we have a few minutes, this might be useful to show you. Okay, so on our website, on this Learn tab, so I was just on the Learn tab up here, you can look at find rebates and contractors, and we'll link to all this, but if you just wanted to see this, so find a contractor, click on that. This links to the switches on clean energy connection. You can go and actually look for contractors based on, and I'll put this in the chat just since you all might be interested. Okay. So you can actually look at, I want a ducted system, I want, et cetera. And this is something that I actually was just pointed out by one of the tech folks on the call, is that sometimes the website doesn't actually have a full list of tech. Oh, Jared's here. Hi, Jared. He's also in the dark. But you can look here and actually look up, your zip code, and then what services you're interested in, and it'll spit out a contractor list. If they're not there, you see this banner up here that's sort of this light green. Click here for a full list of tech incentives, and you can see to view the full list of tech contractors, click the gear icon at the bottom left and select data view. So yeah, it looks like you can, play around with this and find local contractors that are through tech. So that's but speaking of local contractors, we have Jared on the call. It looks like you're outside in the dark somewhere. Can you hear us? I don't think we can hear him.
There we go.
Oh, hi, Jared. Okay, we can hear you. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Sorry.
Yeah, there was no hurdles there at all.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's not like my power went out. Yeah, no, that totally smooth call. We have a question now that you're on. We have a few minutes left. We have about 10 minutes. I know folks are really interested in ballpark costs. Also, Jenny is on the call, who you actually installed one of her heat pumps and solar arrays back in 2014. So that's kind of fun.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So people are interested in, could you just give us a few minutes of just info on ballpark timelines and prices? So, how long it might take to install, and then people are interested in installation costs.
Yeah. So I'll just go like real broad and then narrow it down. So anything within the scope of work of this program could cost anywhere between, $4,000 to $40,000 or something, maybe even more for a radiant floor heat pump system, but that's very niche. And then in terms of timeline, just swapping out like a furnace to a heat pump, if the duct system's all good and you don't have to do much, that could just be like a day and like, $3,000 to $6,000 or something. And then if you're doing a whole new duct system and it's done well, that actually at least doubles the cost, if not more, probably triples it, because that's the majority of the work. Just getting getting rid of your old furnace and putting in ductless mini splits, it depends on how many zones you have. You could just have one, like a studio, and have one zone, and that's just like maybe a day and a half, 2 days worth of work, and could cost, $6,000 to $8,000 or $10,000. Then there could be multi-split systems, and then that can go up to like 4 units per outdoor unit, and that gets pricier and pricier depending on how tricky it is to run the piping from, because each unit has to have refrigerant lines ran from the outdoor unit to the indoor units, which can be pretty tricky. And if you're talking about like 4 zones in a house. So I would only recommend something like that really if it's like a house with vaulted ceilings and a slab and there's nowhere to run ducts. Otherwise, better, the way more cost effective, and if it's well designed and installed, a ducted system is much better. But it just depends on the contractor. Some of them don't know how to install ducts or design them very well. And there's been people in California trying to train them for 30 years, and it's still just a very small group of contractors for whatever reason. But I sent an email forwarded to as many guys in the industry in California as I know, and off the top of my head, so they'll be in contact with you, and hopefully we could set up a network of training and like sort of, that sort of thing, consulting to more kind of run-of-the-mill companies that aren't used to doing, heat pumps and stuff like that, so we can scale it up.
Right. Yeah, because right now it seems like it is not all contractors know how to install heat pumps, or might be as and that's what Cabrillo has said too, is there's like a sort of a gap in the training.
Yeah, and we're working on that. Scott Milrod, I linked him to this email. I don't think he got it in time, but he'll be in touch too. And he's, I've part-time taught at Cabrillo. He teaches a full-time class there, and and you guys are already in contact with the head person. And again, San Jose City College, Laney, those are good colleges for trade school training. And
Right.
But we have a big lack in guys filling the role of the retiring kind of baby boomers in the trades. And there's a huge, I think every school should have some training for along these lines, it seems like.
Yeah. So Jared, how should folks get in touch with you if they want to contact you about a heat pump install? Would you
either
link them to your email, or do you want us to put that?
Yeah, that's probably best. It's easier to keep track of that. Sometimes,
yeah,
I get a backlog of phone calls, and like if I'm don't have cell service for a couple days.
Yeah.
So yeah, my email, you guys have it, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
So we'll
yeah.
share that with everyone. You can email Jared or go through the switches on. If you have any last questions, we're going to kind of start wrapping up here, but put them in the Q&A if you have something for Jared. So Mitsu just put Jared's email in the chat. Also, someone asked in the chat really quickly if there was a tool, whether a panel upgrade is needed to accommodate. So I will just share this this link, the Redwood Energy Watt Diet Calculator. So that group, that sustainability series lecture that I kind of hinted at, that's on our website. Sean Armstrong talks about how a panel upgrade actually isn't always necessary if you're smart about it, right? If you have a 100 amp panel, going up to a 200 amp panel might be overkill. It sounds like Jared is saying.
Yeah, an electrical panel. that's really rare. You would have to upgrade. I mean, if the mini split equipment particularly is sized correctly, especially in our mild climate, it's gonna only, I mean, like if it's Jenny there that I think I know who it is, that heat pump only drew at the most like 12 amps at a time. It, and you could also get them in 120 volt models, which would, be twice as much amps, but it would be compatible with that rare. There are some neighborhoods that don't have 240 volts, and so the equipment for mini splits is super flexible that way. So it's probably rare. Some guys, when they do heat pumps, they install these backup electric resistance coils to like, which are totally unnecessary, but they just do it because they think they need to. And then that could draw quite a bit, like 40, 50 amps. And then they would probably need a service upgrade or potentially, but that's totally not necessary.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like I think all the questions have kind of ended. I know that Tiffany Wise West wants to say something about the city of Santa Cruz. So take it away, Tiffany. You got the floor for 3 minutes.
Great. Thanks. Thanks so much, Krista. Thanks, Jared. This has really been fantastic. I'm super excited about pumping out this app to everyone. I do want to let the folks that are on this webinar know that if you already are not opted into our email list for our climate action plan project, please go to cityofsantacruz.com/climate action plan. I'm putting it in the chat right now, and opt into our email list. Our draft climate action plan is going to come out for public review in June. So we would invite you all to please, sign up so you can be notified of when that opens. In parallel to our climate action plan development, we are actually working on our existing building electrification roadmap right now as well. We finished the first phase where we learned what percentage of different Santa Cruz buildings are likely electric ready. We learned that if every project turned over on a permit by permit basis, it'd take us 30 years to become fully electric. We know that electrofits for residential are going to come at a cost of around $300 million in total in Santa Cruz. And we know that 25% of our housing units contain occupants that are highly sensitive to energy bills. So this is the first learning from our first phase of our work. In our second phase, we're working with the NAACP as our equity partner. We want this to be highly equity focused, our roadmap that is. And I want to also emphasize that it's important to look at energy efficiency first, to look at that insulation, the building envelope tightness, and the weatherization, because that's going to help you to get the most efficiency you can and help you to make a smaller size of your equipment. Thank you again to Lumina. Really appreciate this learning webinar. Just want to encourage folks to sign up for our climate action plan project email list. Thanks again.